It's Macabre Monday. That's right. It is Macabre Monday. I need to mute that because otherwise I'm going to duplicate my sound, and you don't want to hear me twice. Some people say once is enough. They'd be right. All right. I think I have that squared away. You know, the new scene set up, as it were. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, Macabre Monday. It's where we're going to read some macabre, dare I say, scary stories tonight. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. We have some stories that I'm going to read tonight. One of them I read before. It was actually one that was originally done by a different narrator, but then the other stories came back, and they're kind of redoing all of their episodes from the very first one on. And I did the narration for this one. It's called Alien. And it's really, really good. It's in the alien invasion kind of theme, if you will. And then we have another story that is even spookier. That's right. It's pretty creepy, actually. It's kind of psychological in a way, if you will. And it's a fantastic story. Written by Luke Kondor, actually. And we've read one of his first couple of chapters to one of his new books that was about to be released. Actually, I need to check with him to see if it's been released yet, because I'm not sure. But it's called The Businessman at the End of My Bed. And by the title, it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. Or maybe you'll predict it. I did. I thought it was good. Excited to read them. So tonight will probably be a little shorter, unless I'm inspired to read a whole bunch all of a sudden for some reason. Actually, I can't do that. I got another audiobook I need to go get recording, which is a mystery kind of thriller. But some romance kind of thrown in too, which it's okay. It's actually a really good story. I actually don't mind it, but the author kind of snuck it in on me, you know? She's like, oh, it's mystery horror. Romance. Wait, what was that last part? You'll like it. You'll like it. I think you'd be great for it. It's a good story. I'm not upset at all. I'm actually very happy to do it. But I need to get more recording time done, so I'm going to be jumping into that right after this, which I won't be streaming, but that's what we'll be doing after this. So we'll make it short tonight. Mama Rednox, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you, as always, joining in. The ever faithful Mama. I always count on you to be here, and I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm all for this. I wrote a scary short story. Really? Totally out of my element. Oh. Well, I mean, I would love to read it. Even if you don't want me to read it on stream, that's fine. But I'd love to read it. If you tell me where it's at, I'll go purchase myself a copy or take a read wherever it happens to be. Let me know. I'm all in. I love reading horror fiction, especially short horror fiction. I've been doing narration for the Other Stories podcast since about 2015. So I've got a lot of experience reading short horror fiction. And I was kind of a fan of their podcast before I started narrating too. They just happened to put out auditions one day, and I was like, sure. And they were like, yes, let's do it. So long story, short, here I am. Theotherstories.net if you want to check them out. It's a Google Doc, so you can totally check it out. Yeah, heck yeah, send it my way. I would love to read it. I love it. I love short horror fiction. So, those are the two stories that I have planned for us tonight. Hopefully, everything works okay, because I had to, kind of build this from scratch, and I had some problems the first time around. I couldn't even, go live on YouTube for some reason. It was, glitched out. So, this one is on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, here now or later, hello. I need to rebuild the interaction, apparently, with YouTube. I'll work on that. Who cares? We're going to roll with it. And the way that we roll with it is we go to the booth. That's what we do. So let's go to the booth. See you there. Oh, I gotta pick this up. Oh, it's all suspenseful. Oh no, I forgot to move this. All right. I'm a professional. Watch me professionalize. All right, let me get this out of the way, this into here, that over to there. I unplugged that by accident. That's great. That's good. Oh, it got plugged back in. We're good. Okay, move this back over here. That fell. That's awesome. I forgot I needed to move this out of the way. I was doing some pickups for a sci-fi book that ended up being about almost 21 hours long. And I did the recordings of that book before I got my really nice booth that I have now. So in order to do the pickups for it, I wanted it to sound as close as I could get it to how I recorded it originally. So I didn't use the new booth. I used it in here, and I had to kind of switch stuff around, kind of to the way that I used to do things. So I forgot I needed to move everything around. So I apologize. Bear with me here as I load this bad mamba jamba up. All right, we'll get this going. The sci-fi series, it should be out here soon. And actually, let me get that out of the way. Good news before I jump into the story. If you like horror stories, I should have prepared this ahead of time, but you can find it on Audible now. The audiobook that I just did for The Second Bride, which is the second book in the Wanderer series by Kurt Dyer, is out. It's about angels and demons, and if you've been around for a little bit, I read a little bit of it on one of my streams once. I think I read the first chapter or so of it. And I need to maybe do a little bit more, maybe promote it a little bit. But it's out on Audible, and you can pick that up. And if you like that kind of thing, you don't have to start from the very beginning on the first book. I think Kurt does a really good job of kind of getting you up to speed with what the story is so far, so that you can kind of just jump in with book 2 and keep going. The stories are kind of separate from each other anyways, so it's not like a continuation. It's a continuation in the sense of kind of like the overall mythos of it, but the two stories kind of can stand side by side, independently of one another. So the only thing that's consistent is obviously your main character, who is Cain. Yeah, that Cain from Cain and Abel, the guy who got mad and his brother, that thing. But he has been given this special mark by the Creator himself, and it allows him to basically live forever. He's not immortal. He can be killed. But if anybody tries to do him harm, the mark protects him by doing whatever harm was meant to be done to him back to them sevenfold. But anyways, now later on in life and adjusting with modern times, he's become kind of like a private investigator, if you will. And, police departments kind of hire in psychics sometimes to help them with cases. He's kind of like that, but he helps out with the supernatural and angels and demons and things like that. So he's been brought in on this case, and the story goes on from there. I think it's really good. I really enjoyed the story, and it was really, really fun to record. So if you're into that kind of thing, I think you'll enjoy it too. Check it out on Audible, The Second Bride. All right, let me find this thing I dropped, because it's got my controls. Turn this down a little bit so I can hear myself think. But anyways, let me adjust that. Get that going. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I think we're ready to jump into it. Alien by Matt Butcher is what we're about to read. Alrighty. Here we go. Alien by Matt Butcher. It was a cold night. Colder than normal for that time of year. I remember clear as yesterday, though how could I not, given that it was when this nightmare began. I'd been out in the field tending to my flock when I'd first seen the light in the night sky. It was a fiery speck that twinkled like a distant flame at the end of a pitch-dark cellar. I remember glancing up at the time and disregarding it as meaningless, the folly of the heavens, but I'd soon find my initial assessment to be wholly inaccurate. A while later, for reasons still unknown to me, I glanced up a second time to see the speck had now doubled in size. This time, it held my gaze, and I just stared upwards until my neck got sore. With the burning orange, the shape of a dark disk was now visible. There was something solid in the fire. A rock, maybe, I thought. I considered running to the local town to alert the village council in case it was something more, but thought better of it. What's the point? I asked myself. Space rocks fall in my fields all the time. Only recently, I had found a large meteor the size of my skull still smoldering in its crater not too far from where I was standing that night. This was just another rock. I was sure of it. After rounding up my wayward cattle and herding them into their night dwellings, I set back to my house, sparing one last glance upwards. This time I was stopped dead in my tracks. The rock was now as large as our star in the night sky. Now, however, the rock was recognizable as something else, something artificial. A metal disc that I remember thinking at the time looked like a burning plate that was getting larger as it drew closer. This certainly merited the attention of the local council, but at this point I'd never reached the town in time, so instead, I just stood with mouth agape and watched. I watched as the fire grew brighter. I watched as the disc grew larger, and I watched as the object came into surprisingly gentle collision with the ground of the field adjacent to the one I was standing in. The ground shook as dirt flew into the air, and still, all I could do was watch. Eventually, I somehow managed to move. Eventually, I somehow managed to move, and did so in the direction of this landed heavenly thing as fast as I could. This apparently wasn't the first time a metal object had fallen from the sky. I'd heard stories from far away of metal beasts descending from space, shrouded in fire. They would unfurl themselves from the ball they arrived as and view our world with cold, glassy eyes. They were wordless and mechanical and sought only to take our plants, our livestock, and, on a couple of reported occasions, one of our own. These were just rumors, though, hearsay, and most had disregarded them as such. But now, faced with the thing in actuality, I realized there must be at least some truth to the stories. As I arrived in the adjacent field, I found the disc, which, as it happened, was more conical in shape, sat smoldering in the dirt bowl, and its impact had formed, like a metal egg in an earthen nest. From its metal-paneled side, a doorway began to open, with a hiss revealing a dark interior. Then, stillness. A slave to my curiosity, I took a couple of foolish steps forward, eager to peer inside. Edging closer, step by step, I came almost within an arm's reach before a tall figure appeared in the doorway, with enough suddenness to send me falling over backwards onto the ground. The visitor was garbed in strange, clunky, pale clothing that appeared seamless. This was save for the hole its head, the only visible part of the creature, poked out of. It appeared fragile by comparison to us. Its pale skin was pulled taut over angular bone structure, large eyes set close together and far into their sockets, and with a patch of something strange and orange and burnt orange onto its crown. Was this headwear or something organic? It looked almost plant-like, as though it was growing from the creature's scalp. Seeing me sat on the floor, it took a step forward and extended its hand, adorned with an extra digit, in my direction. I viewed it suspiciously. Was I to be taken with the visitor, like the victims of the stories I'd heard? It pulled the tight skin around its mouth back to reveal rows of tiny teeth, far more than normal, all of near uniform size. I couldn't tell if this was an expression of aggression or reassurance. though given the circumstance, I assumed the latter. I felt far from reassured. "Who are you?" I wanted to scream. "Where do you come from?" I already half knew the answer to the second question. Upwards. Outer space. What stood before me was a creature from another planet, another galaxy for all I knew. After a moment's hesitation, I reached up and grabbed the creature's hand, covered in its strange armored glove, and allowed it to pull me up. Teeth still bared, it spoke words in a language we'd later come to understand and fear. This was only when its peers used this language to talk to us from our homes, which we'd soon learned were positioned over rich mineral and ore deposits we had yet to discover for ourselves. This was also the language that was used to tell us they were taking our resources, our land, for themselves, and they would let us live peacefully if we stayed in our designated safe zones. They then used their words to negotiate the terms of our slave-like labor in the mines they'd set up in the rubble of our former towns. "Don't worry," the visitor said, after helping me to my feet. "I'm from planet Earth. We come in peace." Bum, bum, bum. All right, and that was Alien by Matt Butcher. Turns out we were the bad guys. I love that little story. Because as you go back and you think about all the things, you're like, oh, an extra digit. Oh, to them. Oh, dozens of teeth, more than they should have. More than they had. Almost uniform size. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The stuff on the top of their head, hair, which apparently they don't have, it all kind of makes sense after the fact. It makes it even better. I love that little story. That was awesome. And that Foxy says, I think I read that one on Reddit, maybe. Oh, maybe. He might have posted it there. I'm not sure. I know that there's a collection of short stories that the otherstories.net put together. Hawk and Cleaver, I think, is their kind of independent publishing thing. And they put it out in that collection too, but they might have shared it elsewhere as well. So, great story, though. I really love that one. The next one's going to be real good, too. So if you enjoyed that one, I know you'll probably enjoy this one. Different theme, but I think it's really good. And this one was originally narrated on the other stories by Ian McEwan. So hopefully I do it justice. All right, this one's called The Businessman at the End of My Bed. Actually, let me check. I don't think we're in close to our ad break, but if it comes to the ad break, I'll pause wherever I'm at in the story so you can listen to the rest. So here we go. The Businessman at the End of My Bed by Luke Kondor. The unclasping of the latch woke him. At the bottom of the bed, past his feet and to his right, the scratching of metal against the fine grains of wood, a coin spinning and dancing in the shadows of the dark room. It lost momentum and dropped to its side. The sound of it crashing against the bedside table was thunder in the night. It wasn't the first time Stephen Barker had trouble sleeping, something that people spend a third of their life doing. Even with all that practice, he couldn't get it right. He had the night terrors in his youth, waking to find himself in soiled Thunderbird PJs, tearfully howling to his parents. "It's okay," they told him. "You were just dreaming." And then, the sleep paralysis later on in life. Waking in the middle of the night, panicked hallucinations of people in his bedroom, paralyzed and unable to move. More dreams, his dad had told him. Just silly dreams. Still, that night, it didn't seem like a dream. It never did. But that time, more so than usual. Stephen laid in his bed, pinned down by his fear and tied up by the dull panic that prickled the back of his neck. He tried not to cry. He tried to remain calm. He reminded himself that sleep paralysis was a common occurrence. Many people have it. Just hormones in your body designed to help you relax, numbing your movements, and your mind, half awake, half asleep, hallucinating horrible imagery in the shadows. Most people saw an old hag, a woman, a demon, but that wasn't what Stephen saw. No, Stephen saw something quite different. Stephen saw a businessman. A three-piece suit with thick-rimmed glasses hiding his eyes, and alabaster cheekbones lit by the moonlight pouring in through the gap in the curtains. The slight damp of the man's hair gave light to the tight parting running down the side of his head. And down by the man's side he clutched his briefcase. And that smell. The musky cologne, the leather gloves, the spinning of the coin to Stephen's right. The businessman wasn't alone this time. There was a second person to his right, a presence in the dark that Stephen couldn't turn his head to see. He tried to scream, but nothing came out. He tried to lift his left hand, just enough to touch his sleeping wife, just enough to wake her. He tried to force his body to move, but he was trapped, and the weight on his chest holding him down grew heavier. His breathing became forced. He tried his fingers. Just to wiggle them would be a start, but they lay motionless and dead. The presence to his right picked up another coin, spun it. It danced on Stephen's ear before slamming against the bedside table. The presence ran the coin across the table, scratching the surface until it dropped off the end and into his hand. Wake up, Stephen thought. Just fucking wake up! And the briefcase, now open on the foot of the bed. Unable to look elsewhere, Stephen was forced to watch as the businessman readjusted his glasses, picked up some paperwork from the briefcase, and leafed through it. Stephen tried to speak again. This time he managed to whimper. It was enough to stop the presence spinning coins. He felt it lean down over him. The smell of its musk stung the back of his throat. Its breath tickled his ear. Stephen managed. More of a wheeze than a word, but enough to make the businessman take note. His beady eyes now poked through his glasses. Hello, the businessman said. The quiet, concentrated voice of a strict professional. I'm very sorry to disturb you. Stephen felt the presence move away from him, back to his side, looking down at him. Please, Mr. Barker, we'd sincerely appreciate it if you were to keep things professional here. We wouldn't want things to get unprofessional. The businessman checked his watch before nodding to the presence on his right. You see, Mr. Barker, we do hate to barge into your home at this hour, but this was the only time we can operate in this manner. To operate between the worlds, you see. Stephen felt a twitch in his finger. Nothing big, just enough. He might be waking up. A little more and he might be able to nudge his wife. Please, Mr. Barker, if you do that one more time, I will have to ask my associate here to get unprofessional. Sweat dripped down his brow and tickled his eyes. The businessman took a step forward, revealing a little more of his hidden details. A prominent nose that jutted out of his face, the hair perfectly gelled and parted. I have to tell you, we take no pleasure in doing what we need to do on this night. I, for one, am a man of peace, but as our business grows, we need to find new avenues of distribution. And as me and my associates who deal in the, shall we say, unsavory side of life, have saturated our current location, we're now looking to make headways into this side of the wall, into your bedroom, shall we say. But we can't go about business. He stopped, looked to the unseen figure to Stephen's right. Yes, carry on. The presence to his right began to move. The sound of the man tightening his gloves, popping his knuckles. His gloved hand landed on Stephen's mouth, prying it open. The caustic smell of the man's gloves made Stephen gag. We can't go about business if people are asking about us, who we are, where we're from, so we've developed... As I choke on myself here, sorry. who we are, where we're from, so we've developed a way to proceed without raising any suspicions. We believe good business is all about slow, steady growth. Unfortunately for you, well, he nodded again, and the presence on his right shoved something into Stephen's open mouth. It was dry and rough against his tongue. A flannel. Slotted into his mouth and filling out the gaps and crevices, the leather hand fingering the fabric further into his mouth. Stephen whined and cried and did his best to move, to cough, to do anything. If only his wife could wake up. The fingers pushed further. Through the shadows of the arms above his head, he saw the businessman, checked his watch again before looking back to him. His eyes now piercing him through those clear lenses. He smiled now. A job well done. You will play a very large part in our expansion, Mr. Barker. A very large part, indeed. Stephen cried as the flannel found its way past his nostrils, into the meat of his throat. His body writhed and convulsed, but the presence pushed the flannel further still. It shoved the thing down with the impatient force of a man trying to get his job done as quickly as possible. He pushed further, and Stephen felt the windpipe and his throat scratching and expanding and tearing. The presence finally let him alone and walked over to the businessman. Unable to do much but cry and suffocate, Stephen thought of his parents. His lungs strained, and his heart pounded. As lights filled his visions, he saw the presence. As light filled his vision, he saw the presence, finally in view, standing in the moonlight, with an all too familiar face. Slow, steady growth, the other Stephen said as he looked over to him, tightening his gloves. Slow and steady growth. Tears poured from Stephen's bloodshot eyes, and he thought of his parents again. Silly dreams, they had said. Just silly dreams. And that is it. That is the story in completion. The Businessman at the End of My Bed by Luke Kondor. Most of these are being reproduced right now on theotherstories.net. I think, what's the series called? Oh man, I can't remember the title of the series. It's got like, they do like, a story every week on a theme, but then they have kind of like I got like throwback stuck in my head because of Throwback Thursdays, but that's not it. But they're reworking all of their stories. What are they calling it? Hopefully it comes to me. Maybe when I go back to the desk, we'll see. But it's under there. You'll see them. And they're being remastered and redone. Basically all the sound effects, all the narration is completely redone. All the music's redone. So it's all kind of original again, if you will. And I think they've turned out just fantastic so far. Super talented team there. If you're a writer and you happen to be checking this out, that's the sound of the ads. We finished just in time, so there's the ad. We got about 1 minute and 27 seconds of ads. So I'll continue my thought here. But if you're a writer and you want to submit your stories, you can do that. You can submit your stories to theotherstories.net and get your short horror fiction submitted and produced and narrated and the whole kit and caboodle, which I think is like a super cool thing. Each kind of month has a theme to it, like aliens or octopuses or whatever the case may be, night terrors or things in your bedroom. And if you have one that fits that theme, submit it. Or if you'd like to write one to that theme, you could submit it and go from there. So I know that at one point they did have kind of like a backlog of a lot of them because people are submitting stories like crazy. It's a couple of gentlemen out of the UK that started it, and it's really kind of big there. Although I think their audience is growing stateside pretty good too. So they have a lot of people interested in submitting their stories, which is great. There's just a plethora of stories to kind of read and narrate, and it's just, from my perspective, it's super cool if you're into that kind of thing. So, oh, Hearthside. All right, I got to make sure that I do this thing. Do the thingamathanger, as they were. All right, I think we're back, and I need to catch up on chat as I was kind of just vamping through the ad break there. Let me shout out Hearthside here for a second. If you're into narration and horror stuff too, because Hearthside does a lot of horror stuff. Check him out. Check out his live stream narration as well, and his books on Audible as well. Check out his channel. He's really good at it. Way better than I am. He's been doing it way longer. So if you want to see a real good professional do it, check out his channel. He's good at it. How's it going, Hearthside? Holy crap, dude. Wicked. Great story. Yeah, it is good, isn't it? I love like kind of the whole theme of kind of that one. It's good. You are welcome, sir. The whistle signal is so close, you basically only have time to say, we'll be right back after the... Pretty much. I wonder, I might be able to adjust the timing a little bit, but like Twitch timing is so weird to begin with. I'm kind of afraid to mess with it. But I'll see, yeah, because having a little bit more time to be like, I'll be right back, would be nice. Okay. I'm here, but I'm in lurk. Okay, so you actually might not be here. Oh, well, you kind of are. So that was it. That was the 2 stories for tonight. And what I'm going to kind of do going forward is... Actually, let's go back to the desk and we'll talk because it's much cooler out there because it is roasting in here. Let's do that. See you there. Maybe. That means I have to move. I'm old and slow. Give me a second. Hey, I got it working on YouTube this time, so it's a plus. Hi, YouTube. And, oh, the messages are working over there. They weren't working at first. Hey, what do you know? So, anyways, what I was saying is my plan is to kind of do at least 2. I might increase it to 4 because we've only really been live for about a half an hour. Which is fine, but I'd really like to stretch it out at least to an hour. I don't know, I'll work on that. Because some stories may be longer than others. So maybe it'll even out in the end. We'll kind of have to see how it goes. Maybe we'll feel it out with the next couple. So I want to at least do 2, and then chop them up, and then put them on the YouTube so they're just kind of stand alone. So you can kind of watch them there if you want. And then leave a link to the actual fully produced version of it on the Other Stories podcast. So you can kind of go check that out there and see kind of what it sounds like after the fact. Not that I narrate them all, so you can hear somebody else narrate the story for some of these, although I did narrate quite a few of them. But you can kind of hear the whole thing, like the sound effects and the music, and it's just like a whole nother level of production. So I need to get in touch with the author of the Swift Bear and Laxon series. It's like a sci-fi meets Wild West kind of production, and it's raw and gritty and foul-mouthed and lovely in that regard. And there's way more. We did season 1 of that. If you go to the otherstories.net website and you look at it, the very first couple of them were done by a different narrator. We redid the entire series with me as the narrator for everything. So if you see one that doesn't sound like me that's on there, they just haven't replaced it yet. I need to message them again and tell them, hey, we need to pop this one up there, up to the front. But Swift Bear and Laxon, I highly recommend if you're into that kind of thing. Hopefully another season or 2 or 3 coming soon. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think he was thinking about turning it into a comic book as well, because I know he does comic books. But anyways, maybe more information on that to come here soon. Yeah, Macabre Monday complete. Thank you so much for joining me. Next time that you'll see me will probably be Wednesday for Whiskey Wednesday, so grab your favorite whiskey or beverage and join me there for some poetry, because this is Poetry Month, and we'll be reading some poetry from some authors in the community. The Discord is called, and I should have this memorized, The Same Page. So if you're interested, if you're a poet or you'd like to kind of they do like a daily prompt for 5 days out of the week, Monday through Friday. And you can kind of do the prompt or not, just submit it. And if you want, you can have streamers that are also in there read your poetry. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, let me know. I'll send you an invite to the Discord and you can participate in some poetry this month for February Poetry Month. This will be the last Poetry Whiskey Wednesday, and we'll resume reading authors' first chapters for free on Whiskey Wednesdays. So that'll be the last poetry one. I'm excited about it. I've learned a ton about poetry so far, and I'm really digging it, actually. Might be something that I continue here and there, throwing a poem in or two. We learned about sonnets and, just structure and limericks and how those are actually technically like rhyming pattern. Rondels, like, what is that? Like, all kinds of stuff. So it's fun. Join me, because I think you'll have fun too. And it's great poems. Just the stuff that's been submitted so far, I am in awe of. Like, wow, y'all are pretty talented. I must say. So it's been fun. We're going to have more fun this Wednesday. Same time, 6 p.m. PST. I tried to take it back an hour for you all. And then Throwback Thursday. This is really cool. Hopefully I'll be set up by then for this Thursday at 6 p.m. PST to do... what is it called? I keep wanting to say open source, but it's not open source. It's public domain. A public domain recording. And what I'm planning to do with it is literally we're going to be recording it in audiobook fashion and then submitting that to LibriVox, which is a not-for-profit for the seeing impaired. And you can submit audiobooks there so that people have them and they can listen to them. I picked out a book on Norse mythology because it kind of personally fascinates me. I know like a little bit about it and I want to know more about it. So why not read a book about Norse mythology? It goes into everything too, it seems like. So that'll be kind of fun. The language in that one it's older, right? With a lot of the public domain stuff. So it's more of an interesting read. It takes me a little bit to kind of get into it and hit a flow with it as you kind of get used to the language, like, reading Shakespeare or something. You kind of take some time to get into it, but that'll be a lot of fun. I think that'll be kind of something that we can do on the stream and then contribute that to kind of a good cause too. So win, 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 win. We have fun, read books, give it to people that could use them. So there you go. It'll be fun. I'll see you then if you can make it. So again, and I need to put this up in the schedule down below. I'll try to remember to do that. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 6 p.m. PST for all those things that I just mentioned. Thank you so much for joining me there. If you're on YouTube, hello, goodbye. If you're on Twitch, we're going to go ahead and raid someone real quick. Let's find a channel where somebody's reading some stuff, if we can. And then we'll go from there. I think that's such a fantastic idea. I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you, Artside. I think it'll be fun. So I am looking forward to it. And I'm trying to still work out a way to get inside the cool new booth. I think I figured out a way. I just have to do a dry run. So I might do a dry run one of these days. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Won't be doing it tonight. I got to get to the booth and do some reading on some stories for the audiobook. Which reminds me, I need to reach out to the editor. Like, hey, man, you want money? I need to pay you. Let me see here. Who we got? I think they're doing writing sprints. Classic lit story time. Ooh, this might be good. Let's check out this channel real quick.
Said Blunt, sadly. Funny idea of pleasure. Worse racket than people make with tom-toms.
Okay.
Flora.
Okay. They moved the play button and pause button. Let's do that. Let's meet some new friends, shall we, in the reading and writing category.
The goldfish.
Let me go to this channel, copy the username, because I'll bork it up, and let's go raid them. How's that sound? We'll make some friends. I haven't met them yet. Here we go. Did I do it right? I did. I did do it right. All right. We're going to go over to their channel here in just a second. But again, just to review, while I vamp until this thing comes up and I can actually go raid. Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, 6 p.m. PST for Macabre Mondays, Whiskey Wednesdays, and Throwback Thursdays, respectively. See you there. see you over the channel here for a little bit. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
But now he rose briskly to his feet, clearing his throat. I demand pardon, he cried. I cannot allow Mademoiselle thus extravagantly to compliment me and not draw attention to my presence. They say the listener hears no good of himself, but that is not the case this time. To spare my blushes, I must join you and apologize. He hurried down the path with me close behind him and joined the others by the pond. Oh, this is Monsieur Hercule Poirot, said Flora. I expect you've heard of him. Poirot bowed. I know Major Blunt by reputation, he said politely.